Off top, Clarence Big House Gaines. He's in the Hall of Fame, the Basketball Hall of Fame. But did you know, in the 1940s, he was not only the basketball coach at Winston-Salem State, but he was also the football coach, the athletic director, the trainer, and the ticket manager. And he got Football Coach of the Year before committing himself only to basketball. Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
What up, Chuck? Does anybody call you Chuck?
From time to time.
All right, cool. Maybe we'll make that a thing here. Anyway, Big House, pretty impressive guy, that coach there.
Very cool.
I didn't know he was Coach of the Year. He could be a Hall of Famer football coach, but maybe not. They were 8-1. He got Coach of the Year, and then it's like, nope, I'm good on that. Let me do basketball. Way to go, Clarence.
Love a good Clarence.
Speaking of unusual coaches, Deion Sanders.
Yes.
So,
Coach Prime.
Coach Prime.
We don't call him Deion.
Why not? I don't get that. Like, it doesn't feel like disrespect to me to call him Deion. Like, it feels like the utmost respect. It's like how we call Beyonce Beyonce. We don't
exactly
call her
right.
Mrs. Knowles Carter. We call her Beyonce because there is only one, and there is only one Deion, but there's only one Coach Prime too. But anyway, we're talking about him, but not really talking about him. We're more talking about Jay Norvell, the head coach for the team that Deion's team is about to demolish this weekend, will be my guess.
23.5-point favorites.
Yeah, the Colorado State Rams. He said the very foolish thing of he's kind of judging Deion by pointing out that his mother taught him that he should take off his hat and glasses when he's talking to grown-ups.
Well, we can listen to it. Do you want to listen to the clip? Let's let Jay Norvell speak for himself on this one.
And I sat down with ESPN today, and I don't care if they hear it in Boulder. I told them I took my hat off and I took my glasses off, and I said, when I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and my glasses off. That's what my mother taught me. So
I'm of a bunch of different minds, but I imagine by the time people are listening or watching this, they've already heard everyone say how stupid a thing that is for him to say. So I'm assuming that you've heard that. But what it makes me think of is head football coaches don't know their job.
Yeah.
And there's only like game planning. You can hire an assistant for that. That's what coordinators are supposed to do. Clock management. You can have someone in your ear helping you out. Like, you can find a way around or find someone else to do all the other jobs that people believe the head coach's job is. The one thing that head coaches can do that no one else can do is speak to the media in a way that sets the tone for your organization, sets the tone for your team, sets the culture, and also controls the narrative around your team. Like, that is your only job. And I think that head coaches don't realize that it's a lot like being a politician. Is once you get elected to office, your job is not to write bills. Your job is to smile and have people have faith in you and understand what you represent. Like, it's a lot more of a public-facing job. Like, when people say you're the CEO of program, I get why they say that, but that's not completely true. But I get it. But CEOs, they do earnings calls. They understand. They are careful, or they should be at least careful about what they say in the media. And I know this may be a bit of odd direction to take this, but it just frustrates me. Here in D.C., we had Riverboat Ron do the same thing. And it happens so often where coaches just have these unforced errors where they're in the media. And so when you are Jay Norvell, and the key to you having success in your job is getting young people to come play for you, why in the hell would you want to stake yourself out as the uncool guy who is behind the times and saying like somewhat coded things about a football coach who is then going to likely beat your...
So we might need to cue up this clip one more time, because the number one thing I noticed watching this clip is, who are the people applauding at the end of this? Can we roll this one more time really quickly? Because he thought he came off and crushed it. Yeah. He thought it was super cool.
And I sat down with ESPN today, and I don't care if they hear it in Boulder. I told them I took my hat off and I took my glasses off, and I said, when I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and my glasses off. That's what my mother taught me. So,
is that trash talk? Like,
from the Colin Cowherd School of Trash Talk.
It's just
he's
bad.
just a backward tech kind of guy.
It's just bad. So I guess I don't understand the point of it. And so when you could tell by the way he was delivering it that he was like, oh, I'm going to kill him with this one. And you have to know what. So when you're talking to the media and you're in a leadership role, you have to know who you're talking to. Mm-hmm. You're not talking to the reporter. You're not talking to the room full of old white people who are going to be excited by this. You are talking to the rest of the world, or you're talking to your players. And that's why, like, we saw Robert Saleh the other day when Aaron Rodgers' injury was announced. Robert Saleh stood up and he said the things that you're supposed to say, that deep in his heart he did not believe. This is Josh Wilson's team.
Zach Wilson.
Oh, Zach. I always think of Josh Wilson. I had a teammate named Josh Wilson. I always call him Josh Wilson. Anyway, this is Zach Wilson's team.
Might as well be playing Josh Wilson at quarterback, to be honest.
He was a pretty good corner. He had a good little NFL career. He does real estate right here now. What?
him and Cam Cameron?
Yeah, No, Josh does. He does commercial stuff. I think Cam is more residential. Josh is beating Cam in the real estate game. I guarantee it. Anyway, so who are you talking to? And he wanted to win that room. And maybe he won the room. Congratulations, you won the room. You know who's not going to come sign and rush the passer for you? Those old people in that room who were excited about you. And so you need to understand, and the point I was making about Saleh is like he said, I don't know why they're writing an obituary under our team names. Yes, you do. You know why. It's because Aaron Rodgers, the person who you were like giddy over all summer, is hurt. But he understands that I have to say this, because if I come up here and tell them what I said to my wife when I got home last night, that we are in trouble and this sucks. What did I do wrong? Why do I don't deserve this? Then we're in bad shape. So I guess
I imagine that Robert Saleh went home and was like, I can't wait to buy a house from Zach Wilson in a couple of years.
Oh, poor Zach. I mean, Zach, he got enough money that he doesn't need to get into real estate. I'm rooting for Zach Wilson. But anyway, my point is that it's just frustrating when you see that, and to me at least, is football coaches, and I guess this happens in a lot of industries, where if you're really good at your job, you'll get promoted. You get promoted, and you don't realize that now your job is something different. Like being the head of all of the salespeople is different than being a salesperson, and you see that from these coaches time after time. And that kind of overarching thing is what jumped out to me, is like, it's such an unforced error. Like, what are you thinking? How do you think this is going to help you? All this is going to do is give them something to mock you about and embarrass you. So I don't know if that is at all relevant to you, but that's what I thought, is that he's not long for this position.
So what I thought is that this is going to be the first amongst many in the cottage industry of college coaches who are pissed off and want to critique Deion Sanders. And like, we thought this was going to come after a loss, but now his team looks like, I mean, us in the media, we are very much hoping they are 4-0 when they get to play against USC in a couple weeks. And it actually might be the rare football story that could swallow up a week of the NFL season.
It might be. I mean, it depends what happens on the NFL weekend. But yeah, that we normally come in here and ready to talk about the game Sunday night and whatever happened. We didn't talk about Coco Gauff till today's show.
Right.
We didn't talk about Prime until today's show, because NFL matters. But yeah, Caleb versus Prime.
Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter. Yeah,
it's going to be a big deal. So we are all rooting for it to happen. And I do feel like there are, to your point, he is not any different than any other college coach of football. Deion Sanders, that is.
And neither is Jay Norvell. I imagine Jay Norvell is amongst dozens of coaches who are annoyed by the Deion Sanders mania that's taken over college football.
Yeah, and my point is, they're annoyed by it because they can't do it. Mm-hmm. And so it's like the old Chris Rock joke, you're only as faithful as your options. Y'all would turn over your roster just as fast as Deion Sanders if you could bring in some players as quickly as Deion Sanders could. You may not say Louis bags, you might not have a video about it, you may not do any of that stuff, but you could argue that that's benefiting Deion, because how else do you reach young people other than, at least this is just my old person thinking, is like, being famous and having a presence on social media has to help him.
Well, also the turning over the roster thing, isn't that Deion is just laying bare what we have talked about over and over and over and over again with college football. He's just treating them like professional athletes.
I'm of two minds in that conversation, because like, I will defend Deion against people who are being critical of Deion for turning over the roster. Because as I just mentioned, everyone would do it if they could get better players. We did it at Maryland. I saw players who came in there. I remember a receiver distinctly being very upset and crying because he had to transfer to Hofstra because he was no longer good enough or they determined he wasn't good enough. After we had that my freshman year, we did well. We were able to recruit better talent, and they were like, hey, you were here from the old regime, and now you can't run routes for us anymore. You got to go. So it's been happening for a long time. But so I will defend Deion from anyone who's saying that he's doing it different and doing wrong. But what I will say is I hate that they can do it.
Yeah.
So you are firing them without accepting that they are employees.
Yeah.
So by all means, fire away. Hire the best laborers that money can buy. But buy them with money. And, like, that's the part, to your point, maybe this will help. Maybe this will draw attention, and the general jealousy around Deion Sanders will allow everyone else to realize that you're doing the same thing.
People will start playing the same game.
Yeah.
If you want to win, you play the games of the people who are doing it better than you.
But can anybody else play this game?
I am certain that there are, maybe not the PR game, not the game of like taking over the media or being a cool college football coach, because there are great college football coaches and none of them are remotely cool.
Yeah,
like,
that's the game that he's playing though. That's because I think we agree that he's not doing anything he's not doing things differently than any other coach. The only thing that he's doing different is being himself.
The difference is that Deion is the program, and that's what's like. Deion is going to move schools. He will not be at Colorado long term. I guarantee it. That's a guarantee. But there are programs that are cool, even though there are coaches that are not. And that has always been the appealing thing of like, yeah, if you have boosters that recruit you to a cool program, you get the right coach, and you can turn over the roster the same way. The difference is that like there won't be a sports iconoclast running said program who is cool and coaching you. You'll get some stodgy old guy who's militaristic and talking down to you more or less.
Maybe this is where we have to accept that we're old, is because I'm not sure that there are programs that are cool. I think there might be programs that are cool to you and programs that are cool to me, but most of the programs that are cool because they're successful programs, right?
Yeah.
What's a cool program that's not successful? No one's signing
I think
up.
Miami's still cool, even though they sort of stink.
Yeah.
USC's cool.
Yeah, and I think that's us. I think we think it's cool. And no one cares what we think. Like,
wait, Reggie Bush doesn't still play for USC?
Yeah, we think it's cool because we grew up watching Reggie Bush play for USC. And we grew up watching that Miami roster that had Hall of Famers backing up Hall of Famers, standing next to other Hall of Famers. And so that was cool. But I don't think that other kids do. Young
Big
kids.
10, not cool.
I mean, it wasn't until Maryland got there. Bring a little ACC style to it. The Big Ten is so cool. I hated the Big Ten when I was young. I told you this story before that I was considering going to Michigan. Yeah, but then I looked and was like, oh, cornerbacks in Michigan are just little safeties. Like, it's just everybody. It's just a 4-hour run install period, 9-on-7. Nobody wants to do that all day.
Yeah.
Did you watch when we started talking about cornerbacks? It made me think of my guy, Cooper DeJean.
I have seen some Cooper DeJean highlights.
Yeah. So he's not just a true corner.
No.
So he's a
hybrid player.
Yeah,
college hybrid player.
I follow him on social media right now. I just started this weekend and like the cut of his jib.
Yeah.
He doesn't give off Iowa. He doesn't give off Iowa at all. He, if you didn't look at him and you just heard him described, you would be like, oh, great. Another great talented athlete out of Atlanta, Georgia.
That's right.
a lot of future on my man's Instagram and TikTok. All right. Anything else you want to talk about?
The only last thing I wanted to ask you about with the Deion stuff is none of the coaches going at Deion. Like we heard last week, Shedeur Sanders talk about Matt Rule making it personal, and that's why they laid it on Nebraska. None of that actually matters, right? Like none of these players are actually like they're just better than the other teams currently.
I think so. I mean,
because this is going to be a storyline for as long as this Deion Sanders is sort of this Deion Sanders-led team is the story of college football and like the rebellious upstart.
Yeah, so Matt Rule's a good example because in the offseason he said some things that were kind of like suggest that he wouldn't do it the way that Deion did.
Yeah, and then he accidentally stepped on the logo and then apologized for it.
Yeah, I mean the logo stuff to me it doesn't matter. Is like that's not as real as the other stuff. The other stuff was like an actual like criticism of the way he was doing it. And obviously he's lying. He would do it the same way if he had the cachet to pull it off, but he doesn't. Maybe he wouldn't use the same terminology, but he'd do it the same way. I forgot what your question was.
Does any of this sort of bulletin board material actually matter?
So like intangibles are hard to measure. I tend to think that where it might matter and where Deion might be able to make it matter is I don't think I did this on the show before. I don't think that the pregame speech helps that much. It might fire you up for a minute, but maybe the first kickoff and the first couple snaps you are on edge. But where it does matter, I think, is in preparation.
Yeah.
And so I think it probably helps, and Deion seems to be a master at this, is the very overused term of narrative.
Yeah.
Creating a narrative matters. Creating a story matters. The persecution complex, it matters to the degree that when you are faced with a decision, am I going to open my playbook or am I going to go to the bar in college? If in your mind, this week is personal, this matters, then you make that decision that might help you do a little better on the field. And I think that's where, if they can convince them, that it's hard to do it every single week.
But the coaches are going to give that to them every week with this.
Right.
The opposing coaches are marketing Colorado for Deion at this point.
Yeah. So if they're going to give them that every week, then I think it's hard to sustain it week after week because it's like a rivalry game in college. Mm-hmm. And you know this from being a fan. It feels different that week. Every fan knows.
Vandy had no rivals.
Well, you know it from being in sports media.
Yeah.
And anyone who watches this knows it from being a fan. And in the NFL to some degree and professional sports to some degree, it's a little bit different. But college, I remember being like amped up for a Virginia game. And like out of my mind to the point where I'd be ready. Like I really thought that they were different. Like, you know, and you really believe it. You really buy into it. So in those weeks leading up to it and over the summer, I know Michigan and Ohio State do this like in their training camp over the summer, in their workout programs over the summer. Everything is geared towards this one game, this one team. So I think if it does matter, it doesn't matter on the day. The only reason why it has an impact on a day is if it's deeply held and it helps to drive them during the week to do the, like, you don't want to be the one that makes the missed assignment or makes the mental error that causes us a mistake. So that drives you to be even more prepared.
Got it. I mean, at some point we have to go to a Coach Prime game. I don't know if you saw the amount of shows that are out of Boulder this weekend, but it's like 60 Minutes, First Take, Pat McAfee Show, Big Noon Kickoff, College Game Day.
Lord, it's so impressive, man. It's really impressive how he's done this so quickly. Yeah, I'm trying to see Coach Prime play. Let's make it happen.
Definitely.
Who do I need to call?
First album I ever bought with my own money.
What?
Deion Sanders album.
What?
Yeah.
Do you know any other songs on it other than Must Be the Money?
Absolutely not.
My first album I bought with my own money. I don't know. I know the first album or the first tape, because I'm older than you, I got with profanity on it wasn't a full album. It was the Ghetto Boys.
Oh.
Mine's Playing Tricks on Me.
It's great.
I was very young.
Great tape. I was going to call it an album. But
it was before you put the parental advisory stickers on it, and so my parents bought it for me not knowing, and I rocked out to it. I don't know what I bought my own money. I do remember buying Onyx. I really like Onyx. They were good. Shut Them Down. Slam. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I spent a lot of money on No Limit stuff.
Mine
wasn't very. I bought the Cannabis album. You remember Cannabis?
No.
He was an incredible lyricist. He was a mixtape backpack, top of the top, and then you put him over a album, and it was.
I mean, at
garbage.
that point, I was just listening to "Must Be the Money" on repeat.
Must be the money. It's a good song, man.
Oh yeah, it's a great album.
Jamming. All right, what are we doing now? Let's talk to our man Gojo.
NFL.
I can't remember the first album I bought with my own money. I remember the first album I ever went with somebody to buy, and it came up the other day. Did you guys see that In the Club discourse going on online?
Oh, I did not see In the Club discourse, but damn, you're young.
Get Rich or Die Trying. I went with my Aunt Tracy to a Strawberries in Avon, Connecticut to go buy the physical CD with her. And someone the other day came out and said they would never play In the Club on a DJ set they're playing right now, and tried to use that as an indictment of the song somehow.
But what? It's only...
So A, why not? And B, so? That don't mean that it ain't a banger.
They literally said, I know it had a lot of commercial success and charted really well, but
Amazing
There's
song.
no but. It was one of the best songs of the early 2000s. Period. End of sentence.
Charlie, you could probably guess this about me. I didn't love that album at first. It took a while to grow on me.
Yeah, but also you got to realize like this is the 7-year age gap.
Yeah.
Because you were what, 19?
I was in college.
Yeah, you were 19. I was 12.
Oh, yeah. So that's fine. That's fine. That makes sense. So I remember being like Eminem had the best verses on that album.
Yeah.
And I remember being like 50, like, what are you doing? Like, because the 50 Cent that I knew was, again, his mixtapes, and it was
50.
like robbing the industry. It was like 50 so like not commercial. And then he went and got with Dre and went commercial. So I was like trying to be like cool by being like, I don't know. It is commercial 50. But then it's just undeniable. Slap after slap
every
after slap.
single song was complete smash.
All right, so let's get to some fun NFL topics. What you got for us, Chuck?
Okay, we're going to start with the best game of the weekend.
He's Chuck today.
Yeah, he's trying to make Chuck happen.
Really?
We'll see if it happens.
I'm still like, it's been a while since I've been on with you guys, and so not calling you Alabaster still feels weird.
It's strange to me too.
You know what else? You can also call him Snakeem Olajuwon or Nella Snack. The ladies, what?
Oh,
and the
man.
gentlemen, they coming out the woodwork. They like,
No,
man, I didn't know Charlie was cute.
Let me tell you what. I have seen the way you guys collectively as a show have been out here thirst trapping.
Oh, we trapping.
Man, you
We
guys,
trapping.
like Charlie,
Charlie.
I'm a little surprised, but like I felt like this was more in your bag. Domonique, like you've been married with kids for a long time out the game, and all of a sudden you just bust out of nowhere on IG,
Sometimes
shirtless, letting it ride.
Oh, yeah.
It's been
Hey,
incredible.
sometimes you gotta let him know. You still got it. You still got it. Charlie trying to hide his chest hair behind that microphone. He got that thing unbuttoned to the navel.
They're gonna blur it in post.
Anyway,
looking like Lou Riddick.
All right, should we talk about the Chiefs?
Sure, Snakeem, what you got?
Okay, the Chiefs are playing the Jaguars. Travis Kelce's back. Chris Jones is back. The Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites. Do we see a bounce back game from Mahomes and the Chiefs this week? Are we getting last year's Chiefs or this year's Chiefs?
This feels like an easy topic that we can move past really quickly and get right into the Taylor Swift talk because that's where we really want to go.
That's
of course they're going to bounce back. Of course the Chiefs are going to be good because the Chiefs always are good. Patrick Mahomes is still there. Andy Reid is still there. There were a bunch of drop passes last week that professional receivers will not drop again. Chris Jones is coming back. They won't. These guys had a bad day, or I guess I shouldn't say these guys. I can talk about who I can talk about. Kadarius Toney had a bad day. He will never drop that many passes that are returned for touchdowns again in his life.
I'm glad you said that were returned for touchdowns because there's still a chance he could drop a bunch of balls going forward.
They're not gonna return for touchdowns though.
They're also not going to throw him as many balls, I think, now that you've got Papa Travis back, because as we saw in the last couple of years, the Chiefs were already trending using more tight ends anyway. So now that you got the big head honcho back, I feel like it slots easy in there. And I'm with you. Like, that's the unfun part about the week one overreactions is we had all three of the best AFC teams lose, and our collective response is like, yeah, it's week one. They're going to figure it out. It's going to be fine. But Travis Kelce, man, might have pulled off the ultimate coup here. And I saw McAfee mention it the other day. He's got to represent for all of football right now, Domonique.
Yes.
Like, this is our one chance to try and get into the Taylor Swift conversation. It's been all actors and musicians up until now, and largely European guys. And so for Americans in the world of sports, this is a big put up or shut up moment.
I never even thought about this until this very moment is these things can be kind of a trend. So if this goes well, a lot of athletes going to get some pop, like a lot of football players, because it's always been the basketball guys. Like the basketball guys, I mean, the whole time it's kind of been like
Kardashian cottage industry.
Yeah, and like you have a basketball player, you're kind of cool. But Travis could be thinking, like he could be pulling the Pete Davidson. Is maybe Travis climbs into this world and he becomes the new like pass around guy that all the hot young starlets are like, hey, let me get next to Travis.
I mean, he's got a decided advantage because in a helmet sport, he's now become a face. Like he was before too, but then the podcast blows up, and now
he's on SNL,
right.
and he's handsome, like he's kind of cool. I do have to say this. I mean, Travis was on our side at one point. I'm just saying. And
it's been a surprise to all of us.
Yeah, I mean, Travis. It was pretty clear that Travis liked black women, and then he went and found the whitest woman of all white women. I'm very confused. Taylor, you're not his type, Taylor.
I wonder if that's why she was rapping a Millie at the VMAs very hard the other night.
I'll show you, Travis.
Yeah.
I'm cool.
I got it. No, and you know what the interesting part is? Do I fully believe it's happening? No, not really. But am I willing to go along with this? Because her camp hasn't squashed this rumor yet.
Yeah,
I feel like if it was totally out of pocket, they would have put that thing down. So I'm excited for our guy, man.
She doesn't need the bump. I don't think that it's happening or that it's spreading if it's completely unfounded. But I guess, all right, last question before we get on to more NFL stuff is important. How do you play this if you're Travis? Because it's not going to last. They aren't going to get married. So you get out, you break up quickly so that you have the upper hand, or you go and say that your heart was broken. What's the strategy for Travis? What's the game plan? Or do you just go in it earnestly and try to fall in love and get married?
I was going to say, man, this is like holding the winning lottery ticket. I would go in there earnestly. I would play this one by the books. I'm not bringing this to the podcast. I'm shaking mom and dad. I am going here and putting my absolute best foot forward and trying to be on my best behavior for this one and see it where it goes. Because, man, listen, football's a hard game. Travis has played this for a long time. It'd be nice to go and be stay-at-home dad status, or at least road husband status, where you go there and you're cheering in the crowd and you're supporting your baby while she's on stage doing her thing. What I'm trying to say is I would gladly sign up to be that guy. So I hope Travis has that foresight too.
Yeah, I feel like you're just hoping that Taylor sees this clip is all that's happening right now.
Gojo, if they're still dating next summer, we're getting Domonique to an Eras Tour show.
No, thanks.
Oh, we need
He's
it.
going to love it.
We're going to go to Germany or something like that.
Yeah.
And just get wild in the front row of that show after Domonique buys us the tickets because he's rich.
It's basically every single show is the equivalent atmosphere of Michigan, Ohio State.
Dude, Domonique, I kid you not. I say this with 100% sincerity. I'll drop the funny act here and just tell you the truth that I know. I went and saw the second to last night of the LA Stretch of Her tour. So it was the second to last show of the North American tour. And after one song, the crowd goes wild. It had been a trend on the whole tour. They went for double the length. It was 9 minutes of screaming by the crowd after one song. And I promise you, I have been to Knoxville and seen games at Neyland. I have been to Alabama versus LSU 1-3 at night in Death Valley. This was the loudest stadium environment I have ever played in or watched a game in my entire life. It was incredible.
I would go. I don't think that I would enjoy it the way you think I would enjoy it. I think it'd be a cool experience, but I don't think I don't think that I'd be oh, I'm a Taylor Swift fan now. I don't know. I can't name a Taylor Swift song.
That's because
the music's not for me, and it's fine. Y'all can love it, but it ain't for me.
You're the problem. It's you.
It's not me. If she start rapping about moving
that's
bricks,
Taylor Swift lyric.
If I it's a Taylor Swift.
Wait,
oh, my bad.
Could you imagine if Taylor came out with an album and just started rapping about moving bricks?
If she rapping about moving bricks, doing the weigh scale, if Taylor Swift is rapping about taking care of her ops, I'm in. That is the type of music I like to listen to. I like action movies and action music. I don't want to see your romance film. I'm good on that, and I don't want to listen to your heartbreak song. If your boyfriend upset you so much that you had to run up on his block, I'm in.
Charlie, I'm going to say it, and you tell me if I'm off base here. I think Domonique sounds like a Reputation era guy.
100%.
What's that?
100%. That's Angry Taylor.
Okay, all right. Well, I want to hear Angry Taylor. I'm down with that. If you wanna get me with a love song, it better be Andre 3 Stacks. Anybody else, I'm good. Moving on.
Right.
What's next?
All right, so we sort of answered because we were talking about all the bounce back teams, but I do want to ask about what I think is probably the most interesting game of the weekend, and that's the Bengals versus the Ravens, because the Bengals looked like absolute dog water, and this happens when Joe Burrow misses training camp every single year. But they're still 3.5-point favorites against the Ravens. Burrow's calf clearly wasn't healthy with the way they were calling plays. Lamar also looked bad in week 1. So which team do you expect to have a more leveling performance, the Bengals or the Ravens?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to predict. I think the Bengals, I have faith in both of these teams. Unfortunately, the Ravens, as they always are injured and got more injured. Like, it feels like there's something going on there. It's where I tore my ACL, but aside from that, everyone, every year, it's something wrong with important players. They lost Ronnie Stanley again, who I thought was finally going to be back to his true all-pro form. So, like, that's concerning for the long-term picture. But what's more concerning for the Ravens is this new Todd Monken offense wasn't as explosive against a team that we did not expect to be all that good early on. They didn't do preseason stuff, blah, blah, blah. They're still working into it. Okay, Zay Flowers was amazing. That's nice. On the other side, I mean, I think I honestly might have – I was high on the Ravens, and I'm still not moving off of the Ravens, but who I think is more likely to bounce back or have a more leveling performance might be the Bengals, because they aren't doing a bunch of new stuff.
Yeah.
It's the same guys. I know they traditionally under Joe Burrow start the season a little slow, so maybe that'll continue to happen, but they aren't figuring out a new offense. I mean, Joe Burrow's getting healthy again, but they still got their guys. Their defense is a little bit more talented, I think, or not talented, but faster. So I think they'll probably feel a little bit more comfortable with them. But then it's Lamar Jackson. The thing is, Lamar Jackson is so Lamar Jackson-y. He around and go for 300 yards through the air and 2 on the ground.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask, because the one thing we didn't really see last week was a ton. I think Lamar had, 6 carries in that game?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it feels like at this juncture, I know that's not the bulk of it. Now, if you go back and look, even with Stetson Bennett at quarterback, Georgia did, especially in the red zone, a lot of quarterback run mixed into their situation. A lot of that, like, pin and pull, tackle pull stuff down by the goal line. And we saw a little bit of that. So I'd expect they're going to have to rely on more of that, because while, like, some of the guys that have been backing up on that Ravens offensive line, unfortunately, have experience, especially at left tackle, because of the way the last few years have gone for Ronnie. It still feels like it's going to be an uphill battle against the other side that you're right, Domonique, is just whole and has more continuity based on where they're starting from here. And not for nothing, and I know I heard you and Mina talk about this, part of the problem for Cincinnati last week was I just think this Cleveland defense is kind of going to be like that for teams this year. Like, that's a group with wild speed at every level that gave them problems.
That's fair. They can point to that defense and say that was a problem. The Ravens can't really do the same to the Texans and say that was the challenge.
Also, in Lamar, he hasn't thrown for 300 yards in a game since September 18th, 2022.
Ouch. Well, I mean, he's injured and stuff.
Yeah.
He's capable of it.
Before that, it was October 11th, 2021.
Well, I mean, Todd Monken, Odell Beckham,
Zay Flowers, our guy.
Zay Flowers, blah, blah.
Zay was awesome, man. Like, it's been hard to come by happy tales around Boston College for the last couple of years, but that dude's been one of them. Good Lord.
Do you think he looked faster because he wore the college length socks? I'm hard on this point that he wore the mid-calf socks and immediately looked like he was a college player weaving through defenses.
That is interesting, and I've been more cognizant of the sock stuff. And I know for a lot of NFL guys, they'll just do the long tights instead of socks. But, like, with a guy like Daniel Jones, it makes his lower leg look so long, and it's off. It somehow makes him look less athletic, despite being a guy that we know is very athletic. So, yes, I'll subscribe to your mid-sock theory.
I love it. Last one, Josh Allen. Bad in week 1. Like, real bad. They're 8.5 or 9-point favorites against the Raiders, depending on the different books. Does that line make sense? And do we see good or better or bad Josh Allen?
9-point line anywhere in NFL does not make sense, but we definitely see good Josh Allen. I mean, there's no reason to point to Josh Allen and suspect that he won't bounce back. He has these type of games from time to time, maybe not as bad as this one, but he normally has plays like that through the course of a game where he's also doing amazing things. So if he hasn't forgotten how to be bad, I don't think he's forgotten how to be great either. The conversation around him is talking about how he since 2020, I think, is the most turnovers of any other quarterback. But people like also are very artful in how they leave out. He also has the most touchdowns of anybody in that period. And his touchdown to interception ratio is second to Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes over that period, who are the only 2 quarterbacks to put up numbers like they put up and also keep low turnover numbers in the history of football. So I will take a breath now and let you guys accept the fact that Josh Allen is still going to be good.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. Like, he was 3rd in MVP voting last year, even with all the conversation we had about his arm in the last half of the season. Like, I remember seeing two in the FTN Almanac that Shots did. They were top 5 in DVOA in both junctures of the season, like before injury and after injury. And I know it changed a little, look different, and it's going to look different this year. We saw how much 12 they wanted to use. We saw the Dalton Kincaid out there and how they played with that. But like this guy, and I just kind of had this realization hearing you talk about it now is, as a Notre Dame football fan, the last like 5 years have been really interesting because you've been better than 90% of college football, but just not better than that top upper crust of like 4 or 5 teams that have dominated the sport. And so you get compared to that and challenged with that, and it ends up being the thing that cuts you down. Like Josh Allen has been great. He just hasn't been able to beat Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow in the last couple of years, which is something he's going to have in common with a lot of people right now. And so, yeah, like the results have still been there. The dude's still freak show talented and better than 95% of the league on any given day.
Sneaking that goofy Notre Dame take in here.
Yeah, hell yeah. And we got a quarterback now, man. Listen, my life is great. I have never talked so much.
He's Domonique's age
in my life.
He is old. I do think, however, I don't know, we can have this conversation in a couple weeks, but I think we all agree that the Bills championship window with his core is closing, if not already closed. So while Josh Allen's still going to be good, I don't think, while some people around the sport have been kind of confused why we haven't been talking about the Bills the same way we talked about everyone else in their division. I think the reason why is because they're getting old and older, and there seems to be no succession plan.
Well, that's, I think the biggest difference, you're right, is when you look at their peers in the AFC, they've all already had to make the shift, whether it's their quarterback deciding to play more conservatively because of how defenses approach them, whether it's, quite frankly, both Kansas City and the Bengals now having almost completely hockey line changed their offensive lines, having done the same thing, getting younger in their defensive secondaries because they had to let guys go in free agency. For Cincinnati, the next test is going to be what it looks like if and when they have to lose either of those receivers coming up when those paydays are due, the way that Patrick Mahomes lost Tyreek Hill. Buffalo really hasn't had to do that. We've had most of Josh Allen's success come in the Stephon Diggs era. We don't really know what life looks like if that goes south and if that relationship continues to be an issue. The defense has old all over the place. We finally had to see them shed talent at the linebacker level this last year, but like that safety and secondary has been around there for a while, been injured a bunch. That could be a worry this year. So they haven't had to make that shift yet, or haven't been challenged to make that shift yet. And that's kind of the measuring stick for the top end AFC teams right now.
All right, what's next?
All right, last one is okay. So this one's fascinating to me because it's sort of like brings in fantasy football and real football, and that's talking about the Atlanta Falcons, because they've drafted in concurrent year, successive years, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, all top 10 picks. We think all of those guys are really good. They also have Arthur Smith, who's a coach who we think is good at winning football games, but he doesn't use his best players the way that they're traditionally used. So they won in week 1. And Bijan Robinson had the highlight of all highlights in his first week. But the question still lingers. Based on how they're using these guys, do you think the Falcons allocated their draft capital correctly?
The funny thing is, the one that I know they got right is the one that everyone thinks they got wrong. So you need to have a quarterback to properly use a receiver and to properly use a tight end. All you need is a football with Bijan Robinson. I think that Bijan Robinson is up there as far as one game. Okay. But when you watch him play, he looks to me as impactful as Christian McCaffrey, as impactful as Saquon Barkley. He is up there close to Tyreek Hill, as far as I'm concerned, as best weapons in all of the NFL. And yes, that is good allocation of draft capital. I get it. I know all the reasons why you don't spend money on quarterbacks or on running backs early in the draft. But you know what I like? Throw a man a ball, he give you a touchdown. What's the coverage? I don't care. Give it to Bijan. How many people guarding him? 3? Whatever. I'll drop him. Give it to Bijan. Hand it to Bijan. Pitch it to Bijan. Run a screen to Bijan. I don't care. He is good. Maybe you don't re-sign Bijan further, but you got 5 years of a guy that when you throw him the ball, you might get a touchdown no matter what. I like it.
No, but that's not the question. The question is, how do we get Arthur Smith to use him? Because he's splitting carries and touches almost 50-50 with Tyler Algier, who they got at the end of the draft and was also good. So this is also an Arthur Smith question, not just a Bijan being good.
Like, if anything, like, what have we learned about running backs through the whole offseason discourse here? Is Dominique's right. This is the exact window when you want to have an incredibly talented guy with more resources allocated his way. But also we've seen with Saquon Barkley and some of these other guys that pop up, injury becomes a mitigating factor in a lot of the back end conversation. So if you've got a Tyler Algier who was balling for you last year, why not spread the love a little bit more, take some hits off his body and get more, better, longer from Bijan in this 5-year window, and then make a decision from there. Hell, maybe the Falcons can even break this curse. And all of a sudden, if you can keep him healthy through the first 3 years, when you get to that extension period, do what I've been talking about and plenty of other people have been talking about with some of these better high-end running backs, sign into a 3-year deal in their mid-20s for money that's a bit over what you got with the tag, make them feel the love, and make sure you got them locked down for their very best years. Because Dominique's right. The offense gets real high school with Bijan if you want it to, man, where you could just throw your best player the ball and let him cook. That's what you got the capability of here. So maybe they're spreading it around in a way that could be informative going forward.
Yeah, and my high school football coach, my junior year, got Coach of the Year for our county. That man don't know nothing about football. Like, he wasn't coaching. He wasn't coaching. You give it to the guy that's faster than everybody else. It's real nice. It gets real easy to coach, gets real easy to quarterback, gets real easy to block, gets real easy to do everything when you got somebody that's better than everybody. And Bijan is better than everybody.
Dominique, what position did you play on offense when you were in high school? Did you play quarterback?
I played touchdown.
There you go. Oh, you were offensive weapon. You were just ATH.
No, I played running back, and then our quarterback graduated, so I played quarterback. I played running back from the beginning of my senior year, and we lost the game, and then they moved me to quarterback. But technically, I wasn't throwing that thing. I was just playing running back without a handoff. It was it. It was very, very high school because we were in high school.
That was my favorite thing about my senior year. Our high school quarterback, my senior year, was our running back the year prior. And the best thing about him was in the open field when he would juke guys, which he was actually pretty good at despite being basically a meatball. He would yell whoop as he was going by guys. Like the inverse of what we saw last week with Geno Smith yelling, oh my God, when Aaron Donald was bearing down. You would just hear Dean Spencer's his name, and he'd go by a guy, and you hear him go whoop, whoop, whoop. Just arm over in dudes with the ball. It was legendary.
I love it. Good times. That was fun.
That's great.
All right, what we got next? Roses and Thorns?
Roses and Thorns.
Let's do it.
He's so good.
How has Domonique been lately?
Bad or good?
Let's find out. This is Roses and Thorns.
All right, your favorite segment with my favorite person, Roses and Thorns. Ashley's here. What is up, bud?
Hi, honey.
You look nice. I like the sweater.
Thank you. You know, I got the biggest compliment out walking in when I went to Wawa to get a soda. And you know how there are always people on like city streets to try to get you to sign petitions? I don't know what organization they were from, but this one guy, he was like a young black guy. He yelled, "Hey, Barbie." I said, oh, I might give him my credit card number. But luckily when I came out of Wawa, he was engaged with another
credit card
person.
Number. Why? I don't think what he wanted was your credit card number. But anyway.
Oh, I thought they did. I thought that's how they collected their donations.
Oh, I thought he was hitting on you, but not trying to.
No, he was like trying to get me, but I was like, this is the
Okay.
smartest way. I couldn't tell what organization he was with. I was like, it could be anything. And I might be down because you said, "Hey, Barbie."
My hosting abilities have been under fire, so
they have been.
And you make it
anyone
very
can challenge them, it's
so
me.
I'm gonna get right back and get us right back on
I feel like
topic.
this is a challenge.
And to
challenge.
make
What movie is that from? Where they say challenge?
My Life a Lot. It's not a movie.
Does
It's
anyone
from Fresh Prince. Anyway,
Okay.
Serafina, our great producer, please
For Serafina.
tell us what we talking about.
I just saw a cool fact about the movie
Serafina, our great producer, please.
Is it Whoopi Goldberg said she
tell
wasn't
us
doing Sister
what
Act
we
2
talking
unless Disney
about.
produced Serafina.
Serafina.
I didn't know Serafina, the movie, was from Disney, which leaves me with the question of why isn't it on Disney Plus along with Polly? That's something I've been complaining about for months on here.
Serafina.
Now to Serafina.
Hi, guys.
Hey, buddy.
All right, first topic. Coco Gauff, first American team to win a Grand Slam singles title since Serena. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I wanted to do this topic with you. It's a sports topic. We normally don't do sports topics, but
With me or with Serafina?
no, with you.
Oh, okay.
Not
I was supposed to
Serafina.
say, Serafina, come on in.
With you, because we normally do sports topics here, but there are a few things in sports that rise to the level where I will catch you in a separate room. Like you were getting ready to go out and you had it on your TV.
I was so mad at this man.
Anyway, the point is that I was making is like this is a sports topic that you actually care about. And I mean, we don't have to sugarcoat it. We talk about race and stuff a lot around here. And it's interesting to me and funny and unsurprising. But when there is a black sports event, a sports event that seems like particularly black, and you can throw Deion Sanders in this category, we all like circle
I turned
around
on
it. It's like
his game against Nebraska over the weekend on my own.
I was like,
on multiple TVs. I turned on the gym, and then I had to go take a shower. I turned on my bathroom because I wanted to catch the rest.
And the Coco Gauff experience, and like you're not a tennis fan, but even like Serena, you watch tennis when Serena plays, Naomi Osaka when she used to play. And
remember when Naomi Osaka, we were at your brother's house, and Naomi and Serena faced off? Which open was it? And it's like, shoot, who am I going to go with? And at the time, Serena was the one who like, so it was like, okay, come on, Serena. I was like, all right, let's go, Naomi. But yes.
Yeah, so I guess I wonder how Serena feels watching all this, because this modern tennis wave of American tennis is like all black on the men's and women's side, but particularly on the women's side where we're actually competitive, and they're up and comers who are black also. There's one from DC. Hopefully I don't ruin her name, but Clervy Negunaway.
Oh, wow.
She won the junior Wimbledon, and she's from D.C. You got Osaka, obviously, when she's coming back. Madison Keys, Robin Montgomery. A lot of young black tennis women that you're going to have to get to know real soon.
I'll say I was not worried about when Shelton, even in Tiafo has like local roots and whatever. So when they were playing, I was a little bit team Tiafo. But had Madison Keys and Coco Gauff faced each other in a match, I can't say I was going to be conflicted there. I've heard some Madison Keys quotes that just don't have me rooting too hard. A little Tiger Woods-esque. But still.
Serena had the Tiger impact, or the impact that people thought Tiger was going to have on golf. There aren't like...
I saw that since 2000, the U.S. women who have won the women's singles at the U.S. Open are Serena a bunch of times, Venus, I think multiple times, Sloane Stephens, and now Coco Gauff. And so it's funny because particularly with sports like golf or like tennis, where traditionally, like for us, we were born in the 80s. So like traditionally, we didn't see ourselves or people who look like us represented in those sports. It's so different now because you think about our kids, like at least for U.S. women's sports, like it's black women who dominate tennis now. Like for them now, it's a black sport almost. But to me, because of, growing up, when I grew up, like Venus and Serena introduced us to tennis. Yeah. And so I think particularly in spaces where the sports have not been, or not just the sport, but the field has not been dominated by black people, like on the Supreme Court or wherever, I'm going to root for the brown and black people and the women in those spaces. I
think everybody can understand that, even people who aren't black, whatever the thing that you associate with, like you're going to be drawn more to someone who's from where you're from if you're watching a competition.
Looks like what you look like.
Or look like how you look. And I think everyone identifies with it, but it happens so, it feels like it's so much more, and maybe it's just because I am black, but it feels like it's so much more powerful when it is black people in this country, considering the history of black people in the country. But I find it interesting in college sports, especially with the Deion Sanders thing, because obviously college football is very black. But there's something about presenting yourself in a way that is black, which is a tricky thing to try to...
And like not trying to sugarcoat it, or not trying to make mainstream people not see that in you. And I think it's interesting. And also his family's just compelling. Like it's this big, like I think, he's had 2 ex-wives, and now it's with Babyface's ex-wife, like is his partner. And so kids from multiple marriages, this like Jenner Kardashian-esque almost blended family, like where like them and themselves are compelling. Like they could have a reality show. They have their KFC commercials that make you feel like you're a little bit inside of their household, and they're cute. So that's helpful.
Yeah, I'm working on writing this essay too for this thing. For the Black Museum, which is about sports, and it's like inevitable that you think about sports in like a microcosm way for society, and it seems like unavoidable, particularly when we do it in sports. And I think that's the conclusion, or when we do it with Deion Sanders, that's the conclusion that I am somewhat coming to, is like it's not even that he is black and doing things in a way that, there's no single one black way, but in a way that's distinctly different, which I think is often how black is characterized. It's like, oh, that ain't how they normally do it. Because there have been black coaches who've had success, obviously, plenty of them. No black coaches won a national championship. But there have been plenty of black coaches in college football have had a success, but they don't do it in the way that Deion does it. And no one does it the way that Deion does it.
But does anyone do anything in the way that Deion does it?
But I know that's the thing that I find interesting is because it's about Deion. And this is a really, really awkward comparison to make, but it reminds me in some ways about how we gathered or we rallied around OJ, because it wasn't about OJ as much as it was about the criminal justice system and a black person in it and what it represented. And so Deion's not a terrible person or whatever. But it just reminds me of that because Deion, what he's done so far, none of it is like, he left an HBCU, but it's the blackest thing in all the sports right now. At least it feels like, and it's the coolest thing, and everybody wants to be a part of it, and it's happened so fast.
But for me, at least, I think I wouldn't be nearly as interested if it weren't also this family dynamic part of it too. I think that for me plays into it. But
I mean, the stuff that people don't like about him is he's not doing anything different. He's doing it in his way. So he is the criticism of him that's somewhat fair is how he's kind of run a bunch of players out. Other coaches do that too. They just don't have a
But hasn't
he
brought other people in who wouldn't have had these opportunities otherwise to be at this Power 5 school?
And I guess maybe, and I think the OJ comparison, although it makes sense, it's not fair.
That's not fair.
Yeah, it's not fair.
Take
so
that back.
I take
That's
it
my
back.
son's favorite saying. That's not fair. I sound like that. That's not fair.
Take it back. It's not, but I mean.
But I see, honestly, it came to my mind. It came to my mind, but I wouldn't have said it.
But it's not fair. But anyway, the reason why I was bringing that up is because I think the older I get, the less I want to jump on these bandwagons because they make me nervous. I can support Deion Sanders, or I can support what's happening in Colorado, but it also feels exploitative. Whereas Colorado is putting out here, their commercials are based around Deion Sanders. Everything is very Deion centric, and they're getting very close. And this is something that happens a lot. I know I read an article a few years ago about TV networks. When they launch TV networks, they're very black at the beginning, because black people watch TV at a disproportionate rate and are very loyal and supportive. So when Fox first started, it's a bunch of black shows. UPN first started, CW first started. All these networks first started. It's black show, black show, black show. They get some traction. Then they start transitioning away from it. And I think that while I want to be supportive of Deion and the blackness around it and him doing things differently, and frankly, him exposing how ugly college sports actually can be, because when people start criticizing him, you're like, who else is doing that? Everybody else. They just aren't calling their players Louis bags, but they're doing the same thing. But part of me is does Colorado deserve all these rappers on their sideline and all these becoming the cool school on the back of Deion Sanders and his proximity to whatever air quotes a real black person is?
Well, Deion Sanders and his family, I think that's another thing that he brought his kids with him. Like right now, Domonique is coaching our son. Your Roses, that y'all did good in your scrimmage last week. I wasn't really paying attention, but I trust that they said they did good in their scrimmage last week.
Yeah, they did well.
But so that's your Rose. But so I think it's so cool that he's putting his family on, basically. To me, part of it's well, he might have just done this to help his son. And if so, that is so effing noble. Yeah. And you would do stuff to help your son, I would do stuff to help our children.
I'm coaching this
team.
If we had
an opportunity to really put them on, and it was something that we thought was healthy for them or fitting with their desires, I think we would. So I think, to me, I love that about Deion. He just seems like a great family man in all this, especially with those KFC commercials with his mama in them and all his kids. I've seen 2 of them so far. I'm hoping that there's a series and they keep rolling them out all season.
Another thing I wanted to get to before we get to that, the last thing I'll say about what we talked about is it's all great and it's all good, but it also reminds me that it feels a little bit, or not a little bit, it's unfair to Deion and to Coco and to black people in white spaces, often as you have this extra burden that you have to carry. And Coco knows that she's
being... Or you can Madison Keys and not carry that
she's carrying it whether she wants to or not, because the things that she says are then viewed in a way that if a white person said, it wouldn't be viewed that way. You can't. When you are doing anything while black, you are always doing 2 things, because being black is a thing in itself. But anyway, there's one last thing.
Like W.B. Du Bois over here.
No, I wrote that in something I wrote a long time ago, and Lanae O'Neal stole it. She can have it, though. She's a better writer than me. But anyway, I wanted to get to this last thing that's a little less heavy. Serafina, what you got for me?
Okay, second topic. So Derrick Rose's wife, Elena, posted on her IG stories a video of Derrick playing chess on his phone at a Drake concert with the caption, "When I make my husband come outside." And I thought this would make a good relationship theory of the week. Should you do things just to please your significant other?
Ooh. Well, I mean,
So I think the way you're phrasing that, yes, sometimes you should do things to please your significant other, in my opinion. Like, there are certainly things that I don't sometimes, and Domonique would be like, well, don't do it. But like, and you do the same thing. Like, we want to please each other. But I should never force you to do something to please me. And I think that, like, we're happier when we each don't. But I don't fault, just FYI to, is it Elena Rose? Like I don't think in this context maybe she wasn't forcing him there.
I guess we view it differently because we're at different spots in a relationship, and I am more like Derrick Rose in that I don't like being outside as much as you do. So the way I viewed it is, even if I wanted to play chess, and there were probably times where I do things that are very antisocial at social events, that's more the question to me, is not because I don't feel like I take you places that you don't want to go very often, because I don't really want to go.
He doesn't leave the house.
Yeah, I don't really
He'll be
want to go
taking me to the
places.
basement to watch him play Xbox with his friends.
Pretty fun. Or don't.
But he doesn't. Like, you
Or
want
don't.
that alone time. And
Yeah.
I'm good.
So I guess
TV.
that was more what I thought was like, how do you show up in these places? Is it okay to do something like that? Or should you just be like, nah, I don't want to go? Because I could see myself, and I probably have done something similar to that plenty of times, where I just stand in the corner and then you have to answer a bunch of questions about people like, what's wrong with your husband? And you have to tell them that I don't like them.
Well, I don't ever say you don't like people.
I'm not.
But yeah, I just don't think you should ever. Like, I think it's so, I see a lot of people who are either newly dating but not even that. I've seen some like long-term couples and they're making it, or not that long-term, so I don't know how long they're going to make it, but like, who do everything together. Like, yeah. I'm going to dinner with my friends. Let's go together. And I think we're like kind of a far extreme of that, where like I'm quick to be like, okay, bye. And you're quick to go to the basement. But he also travels like for work a good amount. So that might be why. But like from the time we were young, I remember this is like one of the things I feel worst about my marriage, which he probably doesn't even care about, but our first anniversary, July 3rd, 2011.
You've told me this a couple times, and I forget it every time you tell me.
He cooked a meal for me, and at the time we had like an infant daughter. He cooked a meal for me. We were living in Baltimore County, and I wanted to go to like a pre-4th of July cookout at my friend's house. A friend of mine from law school who wasn't always in town was in town and having a cookout at her mom's house. She lived somewhere else at the time. And I really want to see Jenny. So I was like, okay, like, and he was like, well, I cooked, and it was like courses, and it was like this delicious meal. And so I was like, okay, and it was good, and I enjoyed it. He made this sorbet that was so great, but I was like anxious to go see my friends. So as soon as it was done, we ate early at my request so I could like pack up Avery, and then we drove down to DC, where I think I ended up just spending the night that night down there. Maybe I came back, I can't remember. But like now I'm like, that's crazy. I would never like ditch you on an anniversary like that again. But like I showed up on our anniversary to a cookout by myself. Like, and it wasn't like oh, where's your husband? Like, we just always kind of have been fine doing things alone.
I mean, I feel like we have fun plenty of times. It's good. We hanging in there.
Yeah.
Everything can't be perfect.
No, we're fine. And then we go home and we're perfectly happy together. It's just sometimes we're out. So I've had a rose for you. I've had a thorn for you tucked into this conversation. Do you have, I have a rose for myself, is that I was early-ish today.
You were. We started on time today. I appreciate that. I have a thorn for myself.
What? I don't like when you have thorns for you.
We got an interception, and I got really excited.
Oh, the team?
Yeah.
Who got
no more
it?
of that. It was Chase.
Oh, Chase.
And he did. I told him what to look for, and he did exactly what I coached him, and I was so excited. He returned it for a touchdown, and I sprinted down the sideline to celebrate with him. I was so happy.
I saw the
And
picture
then
of that. His dad took a picture of that, but I didn't know what was
very
happening.
disappointed in myself, so no more of that.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, of like
I
celebrating
just don't
your
want to
guys.
show up to kids like a grown man running down the sideline. It's like, just chill out, relax. But yeah, I was proud of Chase. I'm very proud of the players on the team. They're really good.
I think like
practice tonight.
Showing them that like you support them and you're proud of them, like maybe in a way that you feel comfortable other people seeing. But I always want people to know like when they do something well and when I'm proud. I think we've talked about this before. Like I want to make people's accomplishments feel seen.
I don't have room in my life to love 15 more children, and I'm like, the more time I spend around them, the more I care about them, and it sucks, and I hate it. The end. Thank you, Ashley, for being here. Thank you, everybody. Charlie, Serafina, you're the best. Megan, Brian, Kevin,
Was
Rob.
Serafina the best?
No, everybody's the best.
Oh, okay, because you said in the middle, so I was like, that's not right. That's choosing playing favorites.
Everybody's the best. You put the best in there so it can reach everybody on every direction.
We have a really exciting mission right now, guys. It's
No, we don't. You don't want to tell people about your broken pants, please.
my
let
jeans
us go.
broke.
All right, we're done.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.